My male 28 girlfriend, female 37, has spent the last 3 years telling me that men and women can't be friends. She now has a guy friend. How do I show her that she is being hypocritical? I've been with my girlfriend for 3 years. Our general dynamic is that she's very opinionated and has a very black and white perspective of thinking, especially when it comes to generalizations, i.e., men and women cannot be friends, whereas I'm a lot more laid back, and I try to pride myself on being objective and seeing the gray area. My entire life, I've been able to connect better with women as opposed to men. Most of my closest friends have been women. I've been introduced to many romantic partners, or have met some of my exes by associating with these friends, but I have never dated, pursued, or even thought about pursuing any of my actual friends. When I met my girlfriend, I was working in a restaurant and was very close friends with a few of the servers. We'd go out for drinks/food, hang out alone, and keep in contact outside of work. My girlfriend, being very insecure, absolutely hated this. We would constantly fight about the fact that I had female friends. There was one friend in particular she absolutely could not stand. I'll call her Jess. I cannot even begin to tell you how many god-awful, horrible fights there were over Jess. I was constantly accused by my girlfriend of being in love with Jess, only being with my girlfriend to bide my time until Jess was single. At one point, I was even accused of being the father to Jess's aborted son. I am not exaggerating when I say that I was constantly harassed and interrogated every single day by my girlfriend about Jess and I's secret relationship. Jess did turn out to be a bad friend, and we stopped talking 2 years ago. Then it was any other friend that my girlfriend didn't like. I still have to listen to my girlfriend rant about Jess and I's secret relationship, by the way. This entire time, I am sent God only knows how many TikToks about how men and women cannot be friends. I am constantly told about men and women she knows in real life cheating and being cheated on with their friends. I am constantly told that if she ever has a guy friend, I should be worried because she's only friends with guys she feels some kind of way about. After a solid year of being constantly harassed by girlfriend about every non-homosexual in my life, we came to a compromise. I will not add any women on Snapchat. I will never hang out alone with another girl. After negotiating from if a girl is there, I shouldn't go. Even though she initially agreed that it's okay for me to add friends and colleagues on Facebook and Instagram, as long as I actually know them, she still stalks my friends list and interrogates me about any new woman that may be on there. At this point, I started working in a more male-dominated field, and while I still have to listen to her speculate and accuse me of being in love with whichever random woman I work a shift with, it's usually just a sly comment and only occasionally a full-blown argument. About a year ago, my girlfriend confesses to something sus. The day my grandmother dies, she tells me that she was talking to her ex-situationship. This guy was a real pause, and when he had reached out to her previously, I gave her my blessing to talk to him and get closure. The only catch being, they don't meet up, and she saves all the messages between them because she deleted everyone's messages off of her phone. He asked her to meet up with him and suck his weenie. I had to argue with her to block him because she doesn't like to block people, and she finally relented. So I was obviously upset, because why was he unblocked? Her excuse was she unblocked everybody and he messaged her. That's weird, but okay, let me see the messages. She deleted them. Now I'm pissed, and emotionally from the fact that my grandmother just died, we get into a fight and I demand she blocks him again. She says she did. The next day, we go back to my place and I've already moved past it until I playfully reach out to grab her phone and she rips it out my hand. She gives me about 3 nonsense reasons as to why she did that. Then finally tell me it's because he didn't block her yet. At this point, I'm furious. I feel betrayed. I feel even more upset because the night before she made another cheating accusation because it was suspicious that I was watching her place a DoorDash order on my phone, and here she is actually doing something sketchy. I ultimately compromise again and get over it. So fast forward to about a few months ago, my girlfriend has settled down quite a bit in regards to the whole cheating thing. I mainly associate with men now. There are women I work with, but we're not close, A seldom few are added into the abyss that I call my Facebook friends list or my Instagram followers, never to be interacted with. I am still accused of collecting women as backups. My girlfriend starts a new job at a hotel. She immediately connects with her manager, a guy I'll call Jeff. Jeff has a girlfriend, but apparently spends his entire shift pining after my girlfriend and shoot-talking his girlfriend. He stays late on her shifts to help her. Their friendship progresses from the point of her calling him off the clock to come into work and solve issues at their job, to him getting a job at the sister hotel and just going to my girlfriend's job to hang out with her. He calls her when he's bored, but not when he's around his girlfriend, because she doesn't want him talking to my girlfriend. He's openly admitted to her that he has a crush on her. She doesn't see a problem with this at all. What worries me? Girlfriend has a history of cheating. She cheated on her last partner, but claims it wasn't a real relationship, so it doesn't count, despite the fact that they were both in an exclusive relationship. She also does not want me interacting with this guy, at all. I made an effort to introduce her to Jez and any of my other friends. I told her that at any point in time, she could talk to Jez about our friendship. I am still not allowed to have any women as friends in my life. Out of anger, and in an attempt to get her to see the hypocrisy, I told her if she has a guy friend and she is going to break the rules we have for friends, then I should be able to have friends that are women. She pretended to agree, but it then turned into, "Oh, so which girl do you have in mind? And who are you going to run to?" which then resulted in a fight. I have no idea how to proceed. I'm considering breaking up with her, but I feel I might be overreacting. I am worried about being cheated on because our relationship cannot come back from that, but I am also incredibly upset by the double standard. How can I make her see my point of view that her behavior is hypocritical? Now for some comments. Alksta, I don't know why he's taken you this long to consider breaking up with this chick. Just freaking break up with her. Good Lord. This should be the only advice you need and take an effect immediately. Roby, he should have broken up with her in half the time it took him to write this post. Reading this, I was thinking, this has projection from a cheater vibes, not some principled stand about opposite-sex friendships while in a relationship written all over it. Now for the post. Then I got to the part where you said she has a history of cheating on her boyfriend, and she has no remorse, nor is she apologetic about it. Don't even mention the part where she's texting her ex behind your back and deleting texts. Dude, why are you still with her? It doesn't even sound like this is a good relationship you have. Maybe take her at her word and understand what befriending a new guy who is into her means for her, and see this as a sign that your relationship has run its natural course, and choose how to exit on your own terms. Lol. Now for the 6 weeks later update. A few commentators asked me why I stayed with her for so long. The honest truth? I love her. I still love her, and I can ultimately recognize that she was extremely hypocritical, emotionally hurtful, and controlling. I never really believed that was the real her, because when I met her, she had started the depot shot, and that made her bonkers. As the effects of the shot wore off, she started to mellow out. Even though it was still bad, the very, very slow progress gave me hope, and that's what I held on to. It's very easy to look at my original post and think only of bad things, because that's the only thing I shared. But we had so many great moments too. I did end up breaking up with her. With that being said, this is probably going to be a longer post, so if that's all the update you want, then you can stop reading here. After I made this initial post, I read every comment as they came in. Eventually, I ended up reading her my original post in full and all of your replies. This was, of course, an issue for her. First it was, why would you do that? Why would you post our personal business online? Then it turned into, who cares what they think? They're just random people on the internet. We argued every day for about a week. I'll be honest, none of the advice really mattered. I didn't follow it. I love her after all, and I believed we could work it out. We talked a lot too. I genuinely believe she had no feelings for Jeff whatsoever. I also believed her when she told me that she told him that they would never be more than friends. Whether I was being gullible or not, The main issue now was with the double standard of her having a close guy friend when women aren't even allowed to look at me without it being a topic of argument later. So I did what I have done the entire relationship. I compromised my feelings and moved on, with the understanding that I would no longer be tolerating any accusations about me being unfaithful or my feelings of love attraction towards other women. At that point, we were talking about the argument instead of actually arguing, and we got on the topic of Jess again, my secret relationship and my love for her. I told her that I wasn't going to put up with it anymore. The subject then got changed to a girl I currently work with, Tiff. Tiff has been a subject of many fights between my girlfriend and I. I'm obviously in love with her because I tell my girlfriend that I can't stand her. I reassure her again and tell her that is the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my entire life. I am then told that I'm being dismissive of her feelings. I tell her, I told you that I'm not going to tolerate this anymore. If you can't drop it, then I don't want to talk to you anymore tonight, and I hung up on her. The next day, I'm at work, and I texted her asking if she was still in a mood, and she says no. Then she starts texting me huge paragraphs saying, "It's okay if you do like Tiff. If you can just be honest with me, we can work past it together." At this point, I'm starting to get frustrated, and I get upset. I was literally begging her to drop it. I finally just said, "This is the last time I'm going to tell you. I do not have feelings for Tiff. Please stop. I don't want to talk to you if this is all we're going to talk about." She then has the audacity to say, "I think you do. I just don't think you know you do. You're too young to know how you feel, and you probably just don't realize how you really feel." This was my breaking point. As I sat there, staring at my phone, a singular comment from my last post just popped into my head. Imagine how much your mental health will improve once you dump her. And I finally just texted her that this isn't working out and that I'm breaking up with her. Like I had anticipated, she did not take it well. I've tried to break up with my girlfriend in the past. When we first started dating, she showed up to my home and threatened to unalive herself if I left her. Call me stupid, but that worked on me. She knows that I have attempted before. She knows that I lost my best friend ever to unalived, and I told her if she ever threatened me with that again, I'd have her committed. She starts freaking out, calling me 10 times while I am at work, blowing up my phone, saying that she is in physical pain because I broke up with her. She can't breathe. Her chest hurts. I stick to my guns and just say, if that's really how you're feeling, I can call an ambulance for you. I keep telling her that I'm breaking up with her. I don't hear from her again for a few hours. She calls me on my way home from work, asking why I haven't texted or called her. She was so upset that she fell and hurt herself. I just keep telling her, I can call an ambulance for you if you'd like. Eventually, I say she's only embarrassing herself by making these threats, and if she doesn't stop, I'll call the police and have them commit her. Then she starts telling me that I don't care about her, I don't love her, the whole 9 yards. I just keep saying, I love you so much, and this breaks my heart, but my mental health is suffering because of the way you treat me. Finally, she just tells me that I can't break up with her. I don't have a good reason to, and I say, I am a grown adult in the United States of America. I can break up with you because the sky is blue if I so desire. You're probably wondering why I haven't just blocked her at this point, and it's because I was genuinely terrified that she would show up to my job and make a scene, or show up at my house. Which leads me to the next part of the story. She keeps asking me how long I'm going to be mad at her, and being in denial about the fact that we've broken up. The next morning, I woke up really early to take my roommate to work. I changed my relationship status on Facebook to single and changed my profile picture. On my way home, she calls me again. Where are you? Why aren't you home? I freaked out, screaming at her on the phone, you better not be inside my house. Leave my house, you lunatic. Stuff like that. I even threatened to call the police on her and get a restraining order. She calls my bluff. I pulled into a parking lot where I can see her car in front of my house. She was never in my house, just in the parking lot. I texted her to leave and keep telling her I'll call the cops. She stops answering. I didn't want to call the police mainly because I've often seen them weaponized by the woman in my life, which is another reason I didn't want to confront her. So I called her dad instead. I told him the situation, and it turns out he followed her to my house. They lived together to get her to leave. I later find out that Jeff did call her the day we broke up. He was happy that her relationship with me was over. She cursed him out and blocked his number. I just keep telling her that the fact that it even came to this just proves that she doesn't respect me. The next few weeks have been her calling and texting me to work things out. Multiple paragraph apologies, promises of change. Her family started out as understanding and supportive of me, but as of lately have just been randomly calling me behind her back to ask, how long is this going to go on? Because she is incredibly depressed. Despite the fact, I've made it clear that as of right now, I have no intention of taking her back. After one phone call from her stepdad, where he started to raise his voice, I just hung up and blocked her whole family. I just keep telling her the same thing. I have no intention of getting back together with you. Maybe in the future, after you work on yourself, we can talk about it. I haven't blocked her because I do care about her. I want her in my life, just not in a romantic sense. I tell her that if she can't handle just being my friend, that I will have to stop talking to her altogether. And that just because I am her friend, I don't want her to think that means we are getting back together. Last time I spoke to her, a few days ago, it seems that she's finally understanding the gravity of the situation. She is taking accountability and has already met with a therapist. We've been broken up for about a month and a half. I do feel a lot better mentally. I feel kind of free. I don't have to justify anything to anybody. I also feel alone and a bit depressed at times. I feel stupid for letting someone emotionally bully me into getting rid of all my close friends. It's a mixed bag, but I'm taking this time to work on myself. Now for a few comments. Tiger's Blood. Why would you want to be friends with a controlling, manipulative ex-girlfriend? You know the second any other girl comes into your life, it's going to be drama from her. Don't do it. Just move on and leave her in the past. Construction, no 9678. I think he still hasn't processed just how awful she was to him. She's clearly played enough games with him that he feels he needs to be in her life in some way. OP, please read this comment and block her. Whatever she does next will never be your fault, even if she ends up hurting herself. She is a fully grown adult and has a support system outside of you. You need to cut her off completely and let her work on herself independently. She'll never make the progress she needs to ever associate with you again while you're still in her life. Good luck, man. Hopefully you can talk to a therapist and work on why you stayed for so long, why you never called an ambulance, etc. Grimwall. Moreover, any woman worth a damn isn't going to date a man who won't cut off his manipulative ex. You need to actually close the door on her, or you haven't moved on. Nobody wants to hear, "It's complicated," from a nearly 30-year-old man. You're pulling the same shoot you did in your last post. You aren't committing to what you know you need to do, and it's going to continue to weigh on you until you do. I'm not saying this to denigrate you because you made a big change and should be proud of that. I want you to be conscious that you are still operating in half measures. Block and move on. Am I the idiot for rejecting my best friend's drunken kiss and being shunned by our friend group? I don't expect you to like or agree with what I am about to say, but it has always been the way I am, and I've never lied about it. My friends have known this about me for years, and it just feels like they want me to break my principles for the sake of doing it, which feels toxic to me. I am pretty sure I am in the right, but my friends heavily disagree. So I wanted to ask for outside opinions. I've always been prideful, to what some would call a fault, but I would call the lack of pride I witnessed the same if I was being brutally honest and jerk. So maybe we're just different people. I've had the same friend group for most of my life. We're all mid-20s. I do not believe in the whole breakup/get back together or the yes, no thing. If you say you don't want me, you don't want me. End of story. We can close that book and get back to where we were. No problem, and I won't bring it up again. 6-ish weeks ago, I finally got up the courage to ask out my best friend, someone I had feelings for a long time before this. She wasn't interested, and I accepted that right away, because why would I not? We've been friends for a long time, and I didn't expect anything from her. I did distance myself for just a little bit to get over the awkwardness, but within a little over a week, it was like nothing happened, and I was glad. At least until this last weekend, where during a sleepover with all of our friends at my place, she kissed me. No one else was paying attention, and I was kind of in shock, so I just pulled away and shook my head. I honestly figured she was plastered, and that would be the end of it. We all had been drinking a lot, and I wasn't even going to bring it up. Next morning, I wake up, and she, as well as a couple of our friends, are gone. The ones that were still there were really angry. No matter how I try to explain where I'm coming from, I'm apparently not understanding how hard it was for her to confess, and that she felt humiliated by my reaction. I told them that they all knew how I felt about this kind of thing, and they started talking about how it was a different situation, and that my response was heartless. Aita, am I the idiot? Now for a few comments. Groundbreaking Gear 10 said, NTA. What the heck is wrong with your friends? Rejecting a kiss by pulling away and shaking the head is heartless now? Do they think you have to accept any approach by a woman? Assuming the way you describe the situation is accurate, you didn't humiliate her, you just rejected her, which is totally fine. Dim Slug added, on top of that, he thinks no one's seen, which means she was the one who told everyone. She can be embarrassed about the rejection, but she humiliated herself. Mute commented, I'd be more worried about what she told everyone. Distinct Science 854 said, NTA, what in the grade school shenanigans is this? She rejects you, then changes her mind and kisses you without saying anything. Weird. To be fair to her, and I mentioned this in another comment, when we were young, we made out / messed around some when we would drink or smoke. But also, we haven't done that since we were teenagers, so it was still unexpected for me. It's also why I didn't take it seriously at all. I thought she was plastered and aroused, and that she thought I was plastered and aroused. Not a crime, and not something I even thought was worth bringing up, honestly. Cinder Herbal added, it seems cruel for her to confess that way then, because why would you assume this time was different from all the other previous times? I think, not the idiot, and she probably has a lot of people on her side because she told her version first. Talk to your closer friends and start explaining your side again. If they still disagree, it might be time to step away a bit. Either way, unless you dramatically jumped back while gasping and pushing her away, I don't think your reaction was at all mean or harsh. Update. 4 days later, I promised a couple of people an update if there was one, other than me just losing almost all of my friends in one go. And to my surprise, there is. Though at the same time, I'm mostly posting this for me, shouting into a void because I feel slightly rock bottom right now, and my gut is telling me to quit my job, pack my chute, and leave the state, leave this half of the country, DBA, because life here is unsalvageable for me. I got family out west who'd let me stay for a while, and every second I consider it, it seems like a better idea. I also wanted to start by saying I would like to explain my position a little bit better. So just skip the next 2 paragraphs if you don't want to hear it, but I do want the chance to explain myself a little better. I was a wreck writing the first one, and looking back over it, I didn't give many details regarding my reasons or how I feel about it, outside of avoiding the situations. I do not view myself as an epic badass or whatever else everyone was commenting on the last post. In fact, I do understand that to many, this is a pretty fatal flaw in my personality. I have accepted that for a lot of people, that opinion is one that cuts off the possibility of friendship. It sucks, but I also don't want to change myself or force myself into uncomfortable situations just because people don't like a part of me. I am very accepting of others' views on the situation and completely agree that my own can seem rigid. I don't blame people for disagreeing. I think that plenty of people could have a wonderful relationship in that situation. I only even brought this up because it matters to the story. However, I also know that when it comes to relationships, it would not be fair to either party in a case like this. I know for a fact I would never fully know that I wasn't a backup option, or that they aren't just saying yes because it's convenient now. I don't want those kinds of thoughts in my head, and I don't want to constantly feel like I have to prove I am worth it in a relationship. I have more pride, or maybe as others have said, self-respect is better wording. It isn't meant as a gotcha or to punish the other person in any way. It's because even if I still have romantic feelings, I genuinely don't think the relationship is a good idea anymore. Anyway, for the actual update, after almost a full week of radio silence, she replied to my texts and asked if we could meet and talk. I asked where she wanted to meet, and she said my place. I assume for privacy, which is cool. I know a lot of people were talking about her trying to set me up for crimes and stuff, but I'm not really worried about that from her. I just don't think she would. She isn't vindictive. So when she got here and we sat down, I pretty much just told her that I was so confused about everything that I didn't even know what to make of all that happened. And I asked her to tell me what happened from her point of view. There were two differences between her version and my version that I picked up on, which may well have been accurate. I was plastered, and they aren't huge differences, but at the same time, I can see how it would be embarrassing. She claims that after I pulled away, I made a face like I was grossed out. Afterward, she said I shifted to be leaning away from her for the rest of the movie, and it just made it worse. I don't remember either of them, but again, drunk. Not gonna deny it, I have little control over my face when I smoke or drink, and I absolutely could have made a face without realizing it, just out of shock. I apologized for that and assured her I wasn't disgusted, just shocked as hell, and also assuming it was a drunk mistake kind of thing. Hell, we've all done stupid shoot drunk. No big deal. It was only the next morning when I was bum-rushed with accusations, before I even got a morning piss, that I was told it was meant to be any kind of hint or whatever. She did look really embarrassed at that point and told me she hadn't thought about it that way and just thought it would be more simple than everything else. I decided, against my better judgment, to ask the question everyone here told me I needed to ask. Why did she actually reject me at first, and what caused her to change her mind? That's when things got really uncomfortable, and I could tell she didn't want to tell me, but eventually, she did. Apparently, her parents are more bigoted than she or anyone else led me to believe, so in her own words, telling them we were in a relationship wouldn't be worth it since I came out. I am MB, and she said they haven't liked me since then, but stay civil for her sake, meaning that they would just trash talk me whenever I left, which is really frustrating and embarrassing considering all I've done for that freaking family over the years. She was scared that dating would push them too far and they'd cut her off from their lives. She said that she'd hoped maybe we could try dating on DL, and if things got serious enough, then she could. I pretty much just told her I had a lot to think about and asked her if I could have some time. She agreed and left, and I don't know if I'm more furious or embarrassed or hurt. Why didn't she tell me before now they were saying that kind of shoot about me? What kind of friend does that? I'm not saying she had to cut them off or stop seeing them. I totally understand weird dynamics with parents, believe me. But maybe tell me that they have an open disgust and hatred for my existence before I decide to help them with household chores and treat them like I would family. I mean, I grew up with these people. For God's sake, I thought of her mother as a better one to me than my own. Not a high bar, but she was doing cartwheels 50 feet over it in my eyes. I am so sick to my stomach with grief. I'm pretty sure we aren't going to be able to be friends anymore, and it just hurts. I grew up with her. She is the first person other than my dad I came out to, and I never ever thought there would be anything she would do that I couldn't forgive her for. But making a fool out of me for years, then suggesting we date quietly so her family doesn't have to know she's with the local freak show, just feels way too far. I want to forgive her, but she's not even sorry. She didn't even apologize for anything. I want to see her reasons. I want to give her the benefit of the doubt, but it just hurts. I'm not sure if I wish I hadn't followed the advice or not, right now, even though I know it's better to know. I am glad, at least that I will know to stop wasting time, labor, and money on people who hate me. But to know that they hate me is so painful. Now for a few comments. First commenter said, "For God's sake, I thought of her mother as a better one to me than my own. Not a high bar. But she was doing cartwheels 50 feet over it in my eyes, along with everything else. This must suck like hell. So sorry for you. If she wasn't even willing to stand up to you with her family, then it was probably the best decision to not be involved with her, and certainly not now." Then OP replied, "Yeah, a romantic relationship is entirely off the table. I'm trying to wait to speak to my therapist before I do anything rash, but I do not want to be here anymore, and I'm just scared it's going to get worse. I have cried so much over her mom since we spoke. She's the one who helped with my homework, who took me to the doctor when I was sick and made sure I had enough to eat. And now, she just hates me. It feels so unfair." Another commenter said, "So your friend came over. She explained her embarrassment and interpretation of what happened. She took on your view on what happened and how you were ambushed in the morning and how everyone got mad at you. Now that she knows all this, is she going to smooth it out with everyone else and get them to apologize to you? Are you going to be accepted in the friends group again? Are things going to go back to the way they were? I get that her family is bigoted, that you are frustrated how they view you and how she wanted a relationship on the DL. Her family is a new second issue she's raised, but that's separate from your first issue. Losing your entire friend network on top of that, and she's responsible for that, for isolating you and turning everyone against you. She needs to reframe you, pulling away from her kiss as not a rejection, but you not taking advantage of someone who was intoxicated and confusion as to her actions after rejecting you. Assigning it to drunk mistake is fair enough, but recognizing that in the moment and acting like a gentleman and not taking advantage of her was the right thing to do, especially since she didn't verbalize anything related it to her just going for the kiss, which Baoyu wasn't a confession, it was just lobbing the gob. A confession uses words. Then OP replied, "The hateful messages have stopped, but no one has apologized, and I'm keeping them muted for now just in case they get angry again. I don't know. I get the feeling they just want to pretend they didn't say that shoot, and that isn't happening. Also, that's an assumption, and you know what assumptions do, so take it with a grain of salt. Maybe they feel bad and want to reach out. Maybe they're waiting for something, IDK. I just want to give that benefit of the doubt because I am trying not to think the worst of everyone right now." Another commenter added, "Wow, I'm so sorry. This is completely different to what I was expecting. And honestly, I think this is this best and worst outcome. It's good that you two were able to sit down and sort through your issues without any drama. On the other hand, finding out that her parents, whom you grew up with and view as family, actually despises you is heartbreaking. I'm really sorry about what you're going through, and there are people out there cheering you on." Another commenter said, "Very sorry for your pain. This kind of shit can feel worse than when someone you love dies. This relationship died because of their hate, and they accepted your care, work, and money. What a disgusting betrayal. I'm so sorry." Then OP replied, "I honestly just can't face it. Part of me wants to reach out and say something to them, but even if I did, I know I would just be the one who caused a scene." Another commenter said, "I'm not in favor of ghosting normally, but in this case, I think moving west and ghosting everyone seems like a really good idea. There is no point in talking to people like that, Imo. Please get therapy. You are perfect just the way you are. Let go of the shitty people who live in small worlds. Sending you internet mom hugs." Then OP replied, "Thank you, really. I've been in therapy for a while, stuff with my mom actually, but if I move, I'll find a new one. This just feels like I lost a mom, even if I never had a decent one anyway. My mom was a lot, and I didn't know who my father was until I was in high school. Dad is complicated, seems like the best way to put it. I've always tried to be someone that family could be proud of. I knew they weren't super happy with me coming out, but I figured that it was more they were older and didn't understand or something. I just hate it. Sorry, word vomit, I know. I'm just still emotional, and I don't really have people to talk to IRL. Am I the idiot for throwing my engagement ring at my fiancé after he revealed his misogynistic views? My female 28, fiancé, male 34. And I used to have a great relationship, but for the last year, his political views have become a problem. I mostly bit my tongue about it, but it came to a head when he accused a woman at his job of lying about her intimacy, attack. I pointed out that when a woman accuses a man of rap, he questions it and says she is lying. He justified that by saying it's stupid to believe an accusation like that with no proof. I pointed out that he has no proof that she's lying either, but he's accusing her anyway. He often sends me articles of women, usually teachers, sexually harassing boys. I brought up that he never says the boys are lying or asks for proof. He got very upset and kept repeating that I was trivializing male intimacy abuse. I don't feel like I was. I feel that I was just pointing out the hypocrisy. He denied being biased against female accusers. I reminded him that when the accusations against Diddy first happened, he said feminists were just trying to ruin a successful man's life. Unsurprisingly, he never brought up the man who accused Diddy of intimacy attack. He defended Diddy up until the video of him physically assaulting Cassie was leaked. Even then, he said, "We didn't know the whole story." The final straw was when he was telling me, yet again, how women are actually worse than men because we are sneaky and conniving, and at least men will FK you over to your face. He kept saying that women are far worse people than men, and I just lost it. I said that there was nowhere on earth, not now or ever in recorded history, has the female violent crime rate been higher than the males. I told him that men unalive each other even more than they unalive us, so they are a bigger danger to themselves than some girl being sneaky. I said that blaming women for unfair legislation like conscription makes no sense when men make up the majority of the US government and most, if not all, other governments. He was absolutely furious about all this. He didn't argue with me, per se. He just told me that I was brainwashed by the feminist agenda and that feminism lied to me and convinced me I was special. I still don't know where that comment came from. It was not relevant to anything. I, admittedly, was very pissed off and said, well, maybe patriarchy lied to you about this relationship being special. I threw my ring at the table, left the house, and haven't spoken to him since. Today, he sent me a long text stating how I belittled him with that comment and that I would be a good wife if I could just stop needing to be right all the time. I haven't responded, and I'm conflicted about if I will at all. I feel bad about throwing the ring. I really feel bad that I hurt his feelings by saying our relationship isn't special. But still, I'm seriously questioning if I really want to marry him. He has always been argumentative, not just with me, with everyone. Normally, I just ignore it, but he was so egregious with his hypocritical BS. I shouldn't have taken the bait, and I don't feel like men are generally bad. I was speaking out of anger. I don't consider myself to be a super political person. I'm not even sure if I count as a feminist. He just has a new complaint about women every freaking day at this point. It's so frustrating. I'd cack when he became this way, but it sucks. There are still things I love about him, but the things he has been saying may be more than I can forgive. Despite all that, I'm still responsible for my intense outburst because I ignored his constant woman bashing in an effort to keep the peace. I exploded when I could have just spoken up from the start. Maybe if I'd nipped it in the bud right at the start, it could have been better. I don't know what to do. Am I the idiot? Now for the one-day update. Hi again. I'm surprised and overwhelmed by the response my post got. Thanks to everyone who read through all that, and thanks to anyone who reads through all this too. After I left, I went to a hotel. He kept contacting me to ask when I was coming home. I told him I needed time to think and turned off my phone. When I turned it back on, I saw his photo on my lock screen and decided to call him for reasons that will make sense later. He said he wanted to talk face to face, and I agreed, so I went home. He apologized for implying that I'm not special. I apologized for implying our relationship isn't special. We've been together for 12 years, so saying that was hurtful and untrue. Before anyone compares the harshness of our statements, his wrongs don't justify my own, and vice versa. We discussed what we wanted for the future. He wants a traditional marriage, and specified the following. 1. I would quit my job and we'd start trying for a baby right after the wedding. 2. I'd be a stay-at-home mom until the kids are old enough for primary school, and we'd raise them as Christians. 3. He wants to protect and provide for our family, and I would be submissive. He assured me that I could still disagree with him and have a say, but he wants to ultimately have the final say in most things. He asked if I understood what he wanted, and I said yes. When he asked me if I still wanted to get married, I told him that I didn't. He has the right to change his mind, but it's not the arrangement we agreed to when he proposed. This post is long enough, so I won't detail how he got into this gender essentialism stuff or why I don't want the type of relationship he's asking for. Suffice to say, we are no longer compatible. He wants to do a trial run of his preferred setup so I can see that it's for the best. I told him that we had a very successful trial run of not doing that for 10 years until he decided to switch things up a few years ago. He was unfazed by this. So about the lock screen, he has a small snaggletooth toward the back that he's always been shy about, so he never fully smiles in public. That photo is one of very few pictures where he is showing his real smile, and it's beautiful. Seeing that photo used to make me so happy. When I saw it this morning, I just felt sad. I know it sounds dramatic, but it feels like he died and was replaced by some kind of red-pilled pod person. When he asked me if I still loved him at all, I told him that I will always love him, but I'm not in love with him anymore. I get that many people had strong feelings about the things he said, and he definitely crossed the line several times, but this is still so hard for me to do. He's the only man I've ever been with and my best friend. I'm relieved that it's over, but still sad about how it ended. I accept that he's a different person now, but it's hard not to think of what could have been. Edit. About that age gap. I rounded up from the more accurate 11 years and however many months, and just said 12 years. But yeah, I was 17 and he was 22 when we got together. I know that's a big now, but at the time, I didn't see it that way. I was raised in a super conservative family and intended to save myself for marriage. I slowly moved away from ultra-conservatism/religion as I got older. I know that's still a little sus that he was with me to begin with, but why, we didn't have intimacy until I was 19, and it was very consensual.